Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, step one for turning the Saints around began late last week when the hiring of Kellen Moore as head coach became official. That's it. Close the book. Done. We're good. Everything's good now. Wait a minute. Now, that's just the first question to answer. The biggest one remaining is what to do with Derek Carr. And our own Times-Picayune and Advocate Saints beat writer Luke Johnson says the team has 4 options. And he's going to share which of them this morning is the most likely. Well, 2 of them, in my opinion, aren't really options, but we'll talk about that. Also, there are rumors floating all over the X machine that the team is going to say goodbye to Tay. Say it ain't so. Is that one of the first steps in rectifying the cap situation, or is this all talk? And God help us all if they get rid of Taysom Hill and keep Derek Carr. That would make for some really fun shows. Speaking of fun shows, it's time to cue the music and start another one. You don't want to wait anymore.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? How was your first Sunday without football? A little weird, wasn't it? I know mine certainly was. And it was tough to get up this morning. More on that coming up. Although some argue we haven't had football around here for quite a while, but I'm bumped. One thing for sure is, as always, Dattitude. And this is episode number 346, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, February the 17th, 2025. How many of you are bankers or work for the government and you are off today because it's President's Day? Well, goody for you. Sometimes I think we just make up holidays so people can just have off for no unknown reason in the middle of February. Whatever. I'm not off today. I am Jelly. I'm your host, and I look like Jelly. I am Jim Derry, 34 plus years in the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you for being a part of this ever-growing Dattitude family. It is a special day in the Dattitude household. A certain little Derry girl turns 9 years old today. Little Lucy Derry is 9. Fun bringing her to the bus stop. I almost didn't even get out to the bus stop. I couldn't get myself up. It had nothing to do with anything I did last night. I went to bed at a decent hour. I have no clue. I definitely had the Monday blues this morning, but we say happy birthday and congratulations to little 9-year-old Lucy Derry. So I told her I would say hello to her. She wants to see the show when she comes back home. She is the one hope I have left. My 13-year-old could care less about sports. I mean, at all. The little 9-year-old is the only hope I have left to see my kid play sports at all or do anything. We'll see. More importantly for y'all don't care about that. What is on the show today? Luke Johnson is on the show today, our own beat writer. Of course, we're talking about Derek Carr, talking about Tay. We're talking about the possible what's going to happen with Derek Carr. We'll get his opinion on what he thinks should happen. Of course, it's a modified Mono-y Monday, so it's not the same rules that we usually have. If you're new to the show, Monday is normally just me and the guest. However, I only have, including today, there are 4 shows left before I go on vacation. Today and Wednesday, and next Monday and Wednesday. So I got some guests that I want to get in and some things that I want to talk about. So I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit away from Mono-y Monday. We will have time before Luke comes on and after. Gabe is back today. He's going to come on with a little segment. I have no idea what he's going to tell me later on. He's not even in the green room yet. He's got some other stuff going on. So lots of stuff to go. We're still going to try to keep this to an hour and a half or so this morning. What about Darren Rizzi? Darren Rizzi to Denver. We'll probably talk about that this morning. Not a surprise, really. If you're a regular listener to the show, I told you that was going to happen last week. I told you it was going to actually we said it before last week. So it's not a surprise that happened. You can be a part of the show, as always. We talked about it, Mono-y Monday. Just type in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And if you're watching on Facebook, please if for all that is holy, give me a present for little Lucy today, and subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. We had a big weekend on YouTube. Quite a few new followers. We thank you all for being a part of the Dattitude family. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. All right, I'm going to get to some comments in just a minute. We're going to talk about Rizzy as well. If you got some thoughts on Darren Rizzy and him leaving, I mean, look, Kellen Moore is going to get his own man. I did have hopes. I did have some hopes that Rizzy would stick around and be the special teams coach of this team. But, part of it for Rizzy, too, is do you want to stick around and be assistant head coach again? You don't even know if that's what you'll be, or you're just going to be the special teams coach, or you can go to Denver. I mean, and work for Sean Payton again, the man who brought you into New Orleans. It's a tough call, but I'm not surprised. I thought he would go to Denver the whole way. He probably had an opportunity to stay if he wanted to. I mean, my guess is Kellen Moore, when you're talking about unless he's got someone in mind, he probably, I'm guessing, again, don't know this. I'll ask Luke what he thinks. Probably offered Rizzy the job. Sometimes you just can't do it. It just is what it is. All right, let's get to some of the comments here, and just because I gotta talk about our friends at Evangeline, and I got a couple other things to say before Luke comes on. By the way, Luke is going to come on at 11:20, so we got about 13 minutes before Luke comes on, and then Gabe. Charles, good morning. I took Friday off. I absolutely did, and I'm going to take this Friday off too. I got some. Not only do I have time, but it has been a long season. We've had some breaks here and there. It's been better than usual as far as breaks go in, but so yeah, no Friday show. Really, no Friday show again until probably mid-March. So the next 2 weeks we have shows on Monday and Wednesday, and then I'm taking 2 weeks off, and then we'll be back. We'll see how it goes. Got your mocha late. You're ready to go. All right, good. Kyle Sherman, good morning, Dattitudinals. Absolutely. Dylan Smith. Dattitude family, you missed us. Where you been? Oh, where have I been? I don't know. Which one is it? Rocky, good morning. Kyle says another week, another pound. How goes the diet? Glad you asked. I'm a little verklempt. The diet's going well until, look, yesterday, got to say it. I'm going to admit it. You know me. I'm open. I'm an open book. I did not do well on the diet yesterday. Excuse me. It was the daughter's birthday, and I thought we were going to have like grilled chicken and tacos and stuff when I went to the son's house. We went to my son's house. I did not watch a second of the NBA game, by the way. Not a single second of the All-Star game, and I didn't miss a thing, I don't think. We, as a family, we went over to my son's house, and they were supposed to have crawfish, and they were supposed to have grilled chicken tacos. Well, they ran out of crawfish. I don't like picking crabs. It's a pain in the ass. It's not worth it to me. So what did he have besides that? Fried chicken. So those are my options. I was either going to pick crabs or eat fried chicken. And I said, you know what? I've been good. The hell with it. I picked fried chicken. It was a good Sunday. We enjoyed it. We played Scrabble. I watched a little bit of the Saturday Night Live special. Did not watch a second of basketball. I didn't miss it. Charles, we're going to get to Taysom a little later on. Douglas Thornton, good morning, my brother. How are you? Randy Cajun, off. Who's off? There's some people off today. Charles Mangus is off today. He had 945 days off. That'd be called retirement. Rocky says happy birthday to little Lou. Dylan says happy birthday to Lou. So does Charles. Mark Satanovich wants to save UNO. I don't think this show can save UNO. The UNO privateers, and I spent a lot of my time in college at UNO. I think everything I hear, it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. Mark Satanovich says my brother-in-law says we can win. My brother-in-law, not his brother-in-law. Phil Anselmo says we can win 10 games next year with the rat at quarterback. I'm going to have a talk with him. I did not know he said that. Where did he say that? Because he and I are going to have a chat. No. Not going to happen. What else we got here? We got a lot of other comments. All right. David Bordelon, good morning. You believe it'll be goodbye Derek Carr? I don't. Who will start week one? Spencer Rattler, unsigned free agent, rookie draft pick. I would be, again, we're gonna go through all the scenarios. In my opinion, there are probably only two. When Luke comes on, we're really gonna dive into the Derek Carr stuff. But again, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything different that I haven't said already. I'm just saying. What about USA hockey? Did not watch hockey either. America's back. Although I did catch the highlights of the fight. I mean, people went to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out, or vice versa. I don't know which one it was. Whatever it was crazy. Before we get to Luke, more comments. Gabe's coming on the rest of the show. Let me tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can help you figure out what that business is worth. Maybe not just as importantly, maybe even more importantly. That's someone you know, or whether it's you. Sounds like it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And they're like, woohoo! Poydras Street is open again. Super Bowl's gone. From there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision if you want to proceed with the rest of your life. You know what to do. By the way, Nick says he'll, quote, take brains over brawn any day when it comes to Kellen Moore. He's okay with the hire based off of his intellectual ability. I love the answer. That's not one you're going to get here on this show. Nobody's going to say, I'm good with Kellen Moore based off of his intellectual ability. I mean, I have trouble pronouncing the word intellectual, so we're not going to go from that end. That's what Nick said. I should have asked him if he was still okay with Mickey. Maybe that's for the next show. We'll talk more about Evangeline later, but in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Although I didn't watch any NBA All-Star game, I did watch LSU. How about that comeback? Did you even notice? They got their second SEC win of the year. They are 13-12. Woohoo! How about Tulane? Our good friend David Grubb, who we have not had on this show in a while. I talked to him yesterday or Saturday night. We texted. And so David Grubb is going to come on the show before I go on vacation. I think Doug Mouton is going to come on the show as well. I have no idea who Wednesday's guest is, though. I'm going to work on that. But Tulane, what a comeback. Asher Woods, a three-pointer at the buzzer. They beat Rice. Tulane's in a decent spot. I covered Loyola baseball over the weekend. It was 81 degrees. They had 7 home runs in the game. 5 of them hit by Loyola. It was crazy. Walt Crawford asks, where's the picture of me and the rat? Oh, for God. Damn it. Sorry. I will say this, though. If they cut Derek Carr, I am absolutely going to have to feature the picture of me and the rat. Gosh. Lewis Mathern. Thoughts on Carr's brother comparing Derek Carr and Kellen Moore's NFL resume in defense of his brother? Never saw it. But I would think that if someone was saying bad things about me somewhere and my sister was an analyst of broadcast media, I would hope that she would have my back. So that's my thoughts on David Carr talking about his brother in a good sense. I mean, what do you want him to say? Look, I'm going to defend Derek Carr. I mean, I will ask Luke not only what the options are, because I don't want to just talk about what the 4 there. He says there are 4. I think there are only 2. The 2 options, in my opinion, are you cut him with a post June 1 designation, and you save $30 million later, but you got to carry that $51.5 million salary cap number all the way till June 2nd. Is that legitimate? No. It's not. I mean, that's too hard. I mean, think about what you have to do if you do that. If you decide, and that's really the only way to cut him. So if you're going to cut him, you basically have to tell him now you're going to cut him. You let him be free to pursue options elsewhere. But you have to carry that number through all the way to June 2nd. It's not going to help you in free agency. It doesn't help you at all. All it does is help. It helps you rectify the cap situation, but it doesn't help you even become compliant by the start of the new year, which is what? I'll let Luke tell us when he comes on. I don't know. March the 12th doesn't help you become compliant by then. You can't cut him now. You still have to eat the dead cap space. I think the same, again, I know there are a lot of new people, and I'm going to explain to you why I feel this way, but there are multiple reasons why I feel the way that there's a 90% chance that Derek Carr is starting quarterback for this team, barring injury, on September the 7th or whatever the hell the date of the new season is. Whatever the date of that Sunday is, and I should look it up, I guess. I think there's a 90% chance, barring injury, that Derek Carr is the quarterback of this team. To me, there are no other legitimate options. Cutting him doesn't do you a whole lot of good in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't help you become cap compliant now. It does give you $30 million later, but what good is that by then? Are you going to go sign? You're going to go sign another Chase Young? Boy, that worked out well. Donna Lynn says, please leave Taysom Hill out of this. Can't leave Taysom Hill out of it. Rumors all over the X machine this weekend. I had Adam Varner message me, ask me what I thought about this potential rumor from a source I never heard of. Well, about Taysom Hill is going to be cut from the Saints. There's rumors all over the place. Is it a rumor? Yes, it's strictly a rumor. I don't think anyone's talking about this in-house, but look, you got to be realistic, okay? Again, another thing we'll talk about with Luke in a minute. You got to be realistic. Taysom Hill, you could save $10 million off your cap right there. You're $50 million over. Right off the bat, blam, $10 million. Boom. You're talking about a guy, as much as you love Taysom Hill, think about it from a business sense, okay? Forget about how much you love an individual. You want Taysom Hill to come back, I get it, but he's going to be 35 years old. He's coming off of a horrendous, gruesome knee injury. Would he go somewhere else? Likely Denver. Of course he would. Of course he would. But we don't even know if he's going to be ready for opening day. I mean, there's a legitimate chance with the knee injury that he suffered, which was, what, late November, early December, whenever it was. It was early December, wasn't it? Wasn't it against the Rams? Whatever day it was. Whenever it was. You can hate it all you want. But you're talking about an injury. That's generally a 10 to 12-month injury, which means at best, he's off crutches now. At best, he's not going to go through camp. I get it. He's Superman. He can do things other people can't do. But he's 35. Can't afford. Even if he wasn't hurt, you'd have to think about it. You'd have to think about it. Good morning, Barry. Mark, yeah, we're not going to talk a whole lot about UNO today, but you ask a good question that I'd have an answer to right off the bat. Do I remember when UNO basketball at Tim Floyd and Lakefront Arena was packed with Lute Olson came in? Yes, because I was a sports editor at the UNO Driftwood at that time. So, yes, I remember. I had a very good relationship with Tim Floyd. That was a wonderful time to be around, for sure. Kyle Sherman, bring back Carr, revamp the offensive line, get another weapon in the draft at free agency. He'll be a top 10 quarterback with a decent line. I don't know about top 10, but top 12, top 13, 14. How many times do I have to say this? I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, and numbers go down. We're talking about Derek Carr. Oh, no. All but 2 of his seasons and 2 of his 12 seasons. That includes the one where he was hurt last year. So he wasn't in there last year. But all but 10 of his 12 seasons, he's finished as a top 12 quarterback in yards. Top 12. And these are all with horrendous offensive lines. Go back to his days with the Raiders and here with the Saints. He's had horrendous offensive lines. He's a good quarterback. Is he the future of the Saints? No. He's not the future of the Saints, in my opinion. He's not the future of the Saints. However, I don't want to see, if you want to watch 3-14 football, you want to watch a 3-14 football team, then you know what? Cut him, save your money, start working on cap situations, do what you got to do, and start the rat and go 3-14, and we'll all be miserable. Then we don't ever have to talk about Spencer Rattler again. Just saying. Jay Tucker Rafferty, if him and Cam do not take pay cuts, they will be June 1st designation. I disagree. Carr's not taking a pay cut. He's already said why would he? He's going to be the 18th highest paid quarterback in the NFL as of right now. That's before anything gets done in this offseason. I wouldn't take a pay cut if I was Derek Carr. Why would you? The only way I would potentially take a pay cut is if you rework the salary, which is a possibility. They could rework his salary, but then close your ears, haters. Close your ears. You don't want to hear this. If they rework his salary and transfer it into a signing bonus, or a lot of it into a signing bonus, you know what that means? He's probably here in 2026 as well. And he's the bridge. Maybe the Saints draft a quarterback in the 2026 draft. We'll see. I don't think they're going to draft one in this draft. I just don't. Not one who's realistic to play. So I think Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, those are your two quarterbacks. I think you get rid of Hayner and you go get a third quarterback out there that maybe wins the 2 job. That's my opinion. That's what I think is the most likely scenario to happen. Sean Hurst asks, what good is it to stay in purgatory with a used car? His ceiling is the roof. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I know what the purgatory means. But I'd rather watch a team that goes 9-8 or 8-9 with Carr than a team that goes 3-14 or 2-15 without him. Because if that's what happens, that's my opinion on what happens. All right. We're going to get to more of your comments and questions as we go along. I might show a few of them when Luke's on, and if you have questions to ask, if you have comments, you can go ahead and say them if you want, but I'm not going to show them now. If you have questions of the all-knowing, ever-popular Milwaukee Brewers fan, Luke Johnson, then go ahead and ask him. Luke, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on.
How's spring training going, by the way?
Well, I've done myself a favor and haven't done like literally any research on it. Yeah. So if I'm starting to get like worried about it now, then yeah, I feel like that's like the Groundhog Day thing where if that's like me seeing my shadow and I've got 6 long months of winter in front of me that I don't want to see. So I'm just going to pretend that they're going to be terrible like I have for the last couple of years and be very pleasantly surprised.
And be surprised. Yeah, that's how I'm going with the Cubs too. And I've been kind of like, they're kind of like, okay, whatever. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody wants to hear about baseball. They want to hear about football. And we made it through the Super Bowl days. There were some crazy times around here in New Orleans. It was fun and exhausting and gratifying. I think all 3 of those things at the same time. I think our team did a wonderful job, but now we can focus just on the New Orleans Saints, and I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, supposedly that's what people tell me. We'll see. We'll see how good it is this year. But look, I am like I do have high hopes for Kellen Moore.
So do I.
Maybe not for this coming year. I think people should probably tamper their expectations for this year, just in fairness to him. But I think he's a really smart coach. I think it was a really good hire. I think maybe the thing that I was concerned about the most with him was personality. I don't think I'm really that worried about it now. I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's going to be an excellent hire, and I've been advocating for him for a while. And one thing that the Saints, I think, just desperately need is an infusion of life. And you talk about bringing in a 36-year-old coach with just an offensive genius of a mind. It reminds you of 20 years ago. I mean, to me, it does. It's hard to measure someone up to Sean Payton. I get that. I don't even think we're trying to do that. I just think what the Saints needed was exactly what they're going to get in Kellen Moore, and he'll have a long leash. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I know this wasn't exactly what they were looking to do, but I think it's going to be good for them to just have like kind of a complete reset from the Sean Payton era. Have a completely new way of doing things. These guys have been doing the same thing. They've been practicing the same way for,
20 years.
However long anybody's been on the roster, they've been practicing that way.
There's no doubt about it.
They've been doing things the exact same way. They've been looking at things the exact same way, even with the assistant coaches that have been changing underneath Sean Payton and all that stuff, and going from Sean to Dennis to Darren. It's been the same thing. It's been variations of a theme for the last 17, 18 years around here. So let's just blow it up and bring somebody that is completely different has a completely different way of doing things. There are some similarities between him and Sean, but importantly, there's a lot of differences too. And he's going to have a different set of eyes, a different defense, like they might run a 3-4 next year.
Right. Yeah.
4-3 forever. So like, I think there's a lot of good things about that, a lot of positive things about that.
Yeah. And I think we're looking forward to all the changes. Cause like you said, I mean, look, they won't admit it in the building, but basically the last 4 years have just been an extension of the Sean Payton era. And at the beginning, they tried. That's what they tried to do. They admitted that's what they were trying to do, really. And it didn't work out, and there was no other way to get around it. So they have new blood in the building. We'll see how it goes. All right. One thing there may not be new blood at is the position of quarterback, and it's obviously a sore term with when you talk about it with some of our friends here in the Dattitude family that have come back here every week, and some of them like Derek Carr, some of them don't, some of them really don't. But when you talk about scenarios, you wrote a story, Luke, on Valentine's Day that I read, or either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember which day you wrote it, but whatever it is, you talked about 4 potential scenarios on Carr and whether he'll stay or not. To me, there are really only 2 that are logical. And I want to start with them and talk about them. And the number one and the most likely scenario, in my opinion, and you don't have to give your opinion if you don't want to, but you can talk about it. But it's to play on a 3rd year of his deal with likely restructures, which means he would probably be here through 2026. Now, that doesn't mean the Saints wouldn't try to find another quarterback to come and Carr would just be the bridge to that next quarterback. But if they restructure his contract and he stays, and they probably would, it would probably mean 2 more years of Derek Carr.
More than likely. If he stays this year and they restructure his contract, more than likely we're looking at him playing out the remainder of his contract in New Orleans. Because he's already going to cost, like he's already accounting for $61 million of the cap next year. Now you can look at it and say they'd need, at that point it'd be probably an NFL record dead cap hit, right? Cut him if they cut him next year. But like, it's a little bit more difficult to do this year because they've got $48 million in dead money and tied up in 3 players, 2 of whom have not been on the team since 2023. Marshawn Lattimore, Jameis Winston, and Michael Thomas. $48 million just for those 3 on the salary cap. It's approximately 15% of your cap.
That's insane.
Okay, so that's going to be off the books after this year. So like you could conceivably say like, okay, well, maybe you could allocate that money toward just cutting Derek Carr next year and
right.
$70 million cap at whatever it would be. But like, there's also a possibility they're going to have to post June 1st Ryan Ramczyk, which means they're going to be splitting his dead money into 2 years. There's a chance they could do that with Demario Davis or Cam Jordan or one of those older veteran players who's they can't like just straight up cut them this year because they have like it cost them more to cut them than to keep them because of the program bonuses. So like there's a chance, but like I do think that is probably, just considering what we're talking about here with Mickey Loomis as a GM, with his history, with a first time head coach coming in, talking about competing in the division. Like if you're looking at all that stuff, you're saying this is probably a likely outcome, but I don't think it's a guaranteed outcome by any stretch.
No, and I've been saying, and we had Zach on the show last week or week before last, we were talking about it, and he says like 70% chance. I think it's more like 90. I just think it's the most logical, common sense possibility. And he's a solid. You can hate him.
I put it at like 55, but
you put it at 55. Okay, you're even lower than Zach. Okay. Well, here's the other. I mean, the other logical scenario. To me, there are only 2 logical scenarios. The first one is number 1. The other one is the post June 1 cut. However, the problem to me, and although you gain $30 million on June the 2nd, the problem is you have to keep that $51.5 million on the books until June 1. And it just, to me, that doesn't help. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it helps. But you're talking about, you got to get compliant by, what is it, March, whatever? When's the new year start? March 15th?
March 12th, yeah.
March 12th. So you have to get compliant by then, and that doesn't help you in that situation. It helps you sign free agents post June 2nd, but in the grand scheme of things, what good does that do?
Yeah, which is why if I were them, I would just would just like, if I'm going to move on from Derek Carr, right? And that's I think definitely a possibility this offseason. And I can't find a trade partner, which, that's one of the other options. A trade would be ideal if you're going to move on from them.
But you would have to get them to take on some of that salary cap, right?
Well,
or can you? How does that work? Tell me.
I think there's a possibility that a team could be like, we want you to take some of the base salary. Saints would be okay with, but like they would save money if they did trade him.
Okay.
And get assets back. But like there's got to be another partner out there willing to do that and take on some of the financial aspects with that. But the Saints are on the hook for like the bonus money, like the prorated bonus money. That's gone.
No matter what happens, they're on the hook for that.
Right. So, but like, I guess what I'm saying here is if they say like, yes, he's not part of the future, he's not part of the present, let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
The post June 1st cut, I don't see why. You're going to be carrying $51 million on your cap,
right?
Or it's 50. It's
50.5, 50.1, 50.1.
Essentially, like a veteran's minimum cap savings.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're doing that, you're basically just saying like we're not going to be a good team this year. You're going to accept that as a likely outcome. The difference between Derek Carr, mediocre and average as he was last year, versus the other two guys who started was huge.
Yeah.
0-7 versus 5-5. I mean, should they be paying $40 million a year for a guy who goes 5-5? Probably not. Is there a huge difference between him and the other guys? Huge. I mean, those
Giant.
two things,
Gaping.
So if they decide that they're going to move on, they've got to just like understand that they're probably not going to be a very good team. And they're going to have to do some really big gymnastics to make that salary cap fit by carrying $99 million and 4 players in dead money. But
how do you even get to that point, Luke? I mean, how do you even get to that point?
The $30 million that they'd be like saving post June 2nd, the only thing that's going to go for is rolling it over into next year when you're paying for more of that dead money for Derek Carr. You might as well just get it all off your books now. If you're going to go that route, just get it all off your books now. Deal with the fact that it's going to be very tough to put a roster together. And
then if you do that, do you just start Spencer Rattler, or do you go and like try to sign some like Baker Mayfield was signed for $4 million a couple of years ago and they got super lucky? Do you try to get Sam Darnold? How much is he going to take? Justin Fields, if he's available, I don't know.
They're not going to get Sam Darnold. Right? I mean, that's
going to be like a $12 million.
But no, he's going to make more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, he's going to make. I would bet he makes north of 25, probably close to 30.
I mean, what about Jameis? I mean,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like you're looking at. Like I think the ideal if you like cut him is you cut Carr and bring back Jameis. Yeah. I mean, I disagree with that, but
maybe that's probably not going to happen either. But I mean, I'm just trying to think of the different scenarios.
But yeah, no, I mean, look, I think the if you're going to cut him, you're going to want a veteran in that room. I think. I
agree.
I don't think Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener,
I agree wholeheartedly.
Counts towards that end. You could go a couple different routes with that. You can bring somebody like Jameis back in with the understanding that he's probably not going to be your starter. Right. If you're going to be moving into the youth movement, you might as well get a look at one of your 2 young quarterbacks. Or you could go, and try to recreate the Baker Mayfield thing and sign somebody like Justin Fields, who's a former first-round pick, who has, I think, still a lot of potential. I think played fairly well last year in Pittsburgh in like just an okay offensive scheme. Maybe you could tap into something that nobody's been able to with him yet, on a 1-year, very, very cheap, like $3 million deal, and see if he could be a guy for you. I mean, if it were me, I'd be looking at my roster, my salary cap, and I'd say, let's turn the reins over to Spencer Rattler. If he can't do it, if he's no good, then we get a top 3 pick for 2026 when there might be some really, really good quarterbacks out there. I'm not sold on either of the 2 prospects this year who are supposed to be like first-round talents.
Right. I'm not either.
I wouldn't tie my franchise to either of those guys. I mean, I could be on Old Takes Exposed, in a couple of years, looking like a complete fool. It's just me though. I mean, like
I agree wholeheartedly.
Play this like with the smallest amount of risk possible. So
you're talking about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I mean, they're both going to be going probably anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Saints are going to be able to get him at 9, right? Like they'd have to trade up for one of them.
And what about your thoughts on? And I'm not for this either, but I mean the thoughts of Jackson Dart has been rising up the draft numbers as well, but I feel the same way about him.
Look, I think I heard somebody put it like this. Somebody who's I think it was Dane Brugler, whose opinion on the draft I really respect. I think he's the best out there. He said like Cam Ward might be the number 1 pick in this draft. He might have been the 6th best quarterback,
right?
In the draft,
no doubt.
And if Cam Ward's the 6th best, then what would Jackson Dart be?
Right.
And you're gonna have to use a 2nd round pick on him. Like they've so many other problems on this roster where if you're just gonna take like a huge what if and use one of your best assets on a quarterback when you already got 2 young quarterbacks on your roster, and you're probably looking at drafting another one next year. Like, no, I would not. Like unless something crazy happens and like Shedeur's there in the 2nd round, like then sure, or if he like falls all the way to back,
right,
all the way to like the 30s, and you can trade up and get him, like sure. But like I wouldn't use a 2nd on Dart.
But here's my thing, Luke, and this is why I am obviously anybody who's watched the show knows I'm staunchly for keeping Carr. You figure out the salary issue. If you got to spread it through next year, you figure out the best way to do it. And the reason why is this, because all the things you talk about, to me, there is no quarterback in this draft. Okay. And I know there are people out there that are convinced Spencer Rattler can be a long-term quarterback. There are people on the fence. And then there are people like me who I've seen enough. I've seen enough in 6.5 games to think that he's not going to be the future for anyone. So that being said, it's not just next year you're throwing away, in my opinion. If you get rid of Carr, I think you're putting this franchise in a hole. And I get people don't want mediocrity. People don't want 8-9, 9-8. Just winning the NFC South isn't good enough for people. I understand that. But in my opinion, you look at what Sean Payton did in that first year in 2006. And although he struggled in 07 and 08, and they obviously won the Super Bowl in the 09 season, but they set the foundation, and it's a different situation. I get it. But to me, winning is the only thing that helps you get better. And I think that Carr as a bridging the gap, so to speak, to steal from Mr. Lamar. But like Merlin John Hebert says, play Carr in 2025. 2026, there are so many quarterbacks to me in the 2026 draft. It is going to be another, maybe not quite as good as 2024, but I think 2026, you can find a quarterback in that draft that can be your future. And you just stick with Carr and you try to make it so watching Saints football is at least enjoyable, in my opinion.
So devil's advocate side of that.
Go ahead.
Or the opposite viewpoint is if you do retain Carr and he plays same level he's played at less top, like number 16 quarterback in the NFL. I think that's fair to say about Derek Carr. And you are a 500 football team. Like this past year's draft class, after they went 9-8, they were picking 14th. All those quarterbacks were gone. There were 6 of them gone.
Yep, that's true.
So like, even if there are 6 first-round quarterbacks next year, and like I think going into that, like Bo Nix was a huge stretch. Michael Penix was a stretch.
Sure.
Even if there are 6, like you might play yourself out of picking any of them, and then you're just like right back at square one. So I think that like if you're looking at this and you know now that he's not your long-term answer, then why are you paying $40 million for somebody who's not part of your plans?
But here's the devil's.
I don't want to be part of that either. If they're looking at me as just like, he's here on their team already. It's like, I think that the position is so important.
I don't disagree with that at all.
That like if the guy you have in there is not your guy, and you have to go through a real dark time to get your guy, even if that's to release him and you're not in position to take a quarterback next year, or that the class doesn't pan out the way we all think it would, Yeah, I think it's been proven the last couple of years that you can find somebody in free agency now more easily than you could in the past. And when you got that big money off your books, and maybe you can find your guy after that.
I just think that the dark time that you talk about, I think it's a lot longer than just a year or two if you do that, because I get what you're saying, and I don't know that this franchise is capable of even making the right. I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, they have a history. When's the last quarterback they drafted in the first round? Archie Manning, 1971. I mean, it's well documented. I just don't know this team is capable of even going out to draft their quarterback. And so I just don't. Losing to me just does nothing but losing. And I'm just afraid that if they go down that road that you're talking about, that us stuck here who have to cover this team and talk about this team every single day for 365 days are going to be stuck covering a team that's just has 7-8 wins over the course of 2 or 3 seasons.
It's definitely possible, right? We've seen like the full blow up, tear it down to the studs, rebuild, not work out, especially when there's organizational problems. I mean, just look at the Jets.
Yeah.
How many top 5 quarterbacks have they had flame out? There's Sanchez,
Plenty.
Darnold, Zach Wilson. You know, they get Aaron Rodgers in there, Hall of Famer, and he's awful. It's definitely possible you could just like suck for the next 20 years, and you could start that ball rolling by releasing the guy who's just okay, and then missing on every possible one after that. But I think if you feel comfortable and confident in the staff you have and the evaluators you have, and you see a possibility to get yourself out of this with especially when you're looking at a team with salary cap problems, if you got the most important player on your roster making $6 or $7 million a year,
yeah,
like you were in a much better place to get much healthier roster wise sooner.
I hear you. And I guess I can get which side you're on, and I understand all sides of it. I really do. I'm not saying
I'm saying this as like, I know people feel very strongly about Derek Carr, and I know a lot of people don't like him. I think he gets. I think it's a little unfair how much criticism he gets, because I think he's been a lot better than people claim he's been here. I know he's got his
way
work,
better,
and he's not like a top 5 quarterback. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to say he's a top 10 quarterback. I'm not even trying to say I'd want to build my team around him. But like, I think that you look at what he's done, and it's been pretty good sometimes, and it's not been good other times. Totally get it. But like, it's not like he's been like, a bottom 5 starting quarterback in the NFL. One of my favorite stats, one of the best stats out there in football. And again, I know people like stats, Derek Carr, whatever. Look, advanced.
They don't like him when you talk about it when it comes to Derek Carr. They don't want to talk stats.
Expected points added. It's like the football equivalent of WAR.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
He's slotted right behind Joe Burrow in EPA per dropback last year, number 11 in the NFL. Like, he's not a scrub. Okay. He's a pretty good functional starting NFL quarterback. There are warts. There are problems with him. He's not terrible. But if you're looking at this and you're saying like, I don't think he's the guy for us long-term future, then move on. And it's like, there's no sense in sticking around with all that. If you think that you were going to want to go in a different direction at quarterback.
I just don't know that any of us have ever seen Derek Carr. I mean, look, Derek Carr made this choice. I don't really feel that bad for him, because he came here when he knew this offensive line was going in the wrong direction. You made this choice. You should have never made this choice in the first place. So that's on him.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him in the sense that he's, he made more this past year than I'll make in my entire life.
No,
like
that too.
He's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. But like.
But I would like to see him, Luke. I would just like to see him if the Saints could go and at number 9 get another starting tackle, in my opinion. And to me, you have a foundation. I really think Trevor Penning, all the crap that I've given him, I actually think a move to guard. I think he could be a really good guard. I really do. I think he improved so much this past year. I think he could be a starting guard. And I just think that if you can get another starting tackle, a top-notch tackle, I think this offensive line could be good like next year. They could be okay next year. And I would just love to see what Derek Carr could do behind a good offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too. But like, I I'd also love to see, what they would look like with their guy at quarterback.
Yeah. And we
Like,
don't know who their guy is, so you're right.
yeah, if it's not Derek Carr, then just like, if it's not him, just rip the Band-Aid. Just get yourself in a healthier spot next year, cap wise, draft wise, and make your run at it. Because just trying to hold on to being competitive for being competitive sake, when you don't necessarily have a long-term vision plan for the organization, I don't think that's healthy.
I hear you. I get it. Again, I get it. I just can't. The thought of talking about this team for 2, 3, 4 more years, having the year we had last year and having more 7-game losing streaks is just.
Last year was, my job is very cool. Objectively, last year was not fun.
It was not exactly. It was really.
I don't want myself up for like 5 more years of covering like 3 and 14 teams, but like.
And how do you talk about losing? I mean, we're just not used to it. I mean, we're spoiled too. I talk about fans being spoiled. We're spoiled here in the New Orleans media, and you've been around long enough. You've covered this team long enough. I mean, we're spoiled. I mean, in the last 4 years of, it just have not been what we're used to. And last year, especially, at least at 9-8, you could find new things to talk about. And you're like, are they going to make the playoffs? And you talk about playoff scenarios all the way through the end of the year. When you're 5-12, you don't talk about jack, except you start talking about the draft in November. And that's definitely not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and we might be in for another one of those this year.
All right. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about rumors this weekend. And look, all these comments in the chat, I'm going to get to a lot of them. I don't really want to show them all when Luke is here. We'll have plenty of time to talk about them when Luke leaves. But I know he's only got a few more minutes to talk to us this morning here. Monday morning on the Dattitude podcast, brought to you by Evangeline Securities. I want to ask you your opinion on a rumor floating around the X machine and all over social media about the Saints making a decision to cut Taysom Hill. Have you heard any of these rumors? Do you think, obviously the Saints save some money if they do cut Taysom Hill? You're talking about an injured guy the Swiss Army knife, who's got a banged up knee. You don't even know when he's be ready. Just what do you think about the Taysom Hill situation?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you're looking at Taysom or you're looking at Cam Jordan or Demario Davis, I mean, cutting these guys gets you nowhere outside of just not having them on the team.
Right.
They would save $277,000 in the salary cap if they cut Taysom Hill, and they would
I didn't realize that
they would eat almost $18 million in dead money.
Well, then that doesn't make any sense.
Some conversation you have with Derek Carr, it's like, okay, like we could cut him, but like if we're cutting him, it's just because we don't want him on the team, because you're not actually saving money by doing it.
So you don't save any money from cutting Taysom Hill. I did not realize that. Explain that for a second, because I don't understand it.
Okay, so his base salary is $10 million.
Okay.
He's got $8 million in prorated bonuses this year, and then if you look at all the void years they've added on, there's 2 more void years on top of that with an additional $9.7 million. So that's from all the restructures they've done with him. Right. And this is the case with a lot of guys on the roster: Cam, Demario, Tyron, guys who've been restructured multiple times. So
right.
when you start tacking on void years, it makes it basically impossible to cut somebody. I mean, they could cut them, but like, what's the point? Like there's no. I've
tried to back up Mickey Loomis for a while now, but when you start talking about these sorts of things and that they're in this situation, and I mean, even if you're selling out for a year or 2 years or whatever, how could you not foresee where this team is right now? And you talk about not saving any money, and you're only going to cut them if if you put it that way, then I hope they don't cut Taysom Hill. It doesn't make any sense to. Well, I mean, see, if you're only going to save $300,000, I mean, but how do you get to this place? And I know, look, I put you in a tough situation with that question. Say it as nicely as possible.
Here's how they made a lot of decisions that in the moment were smart, right? And it's not even this re-signing like Cam and Demario and Taysom and all those guys. They signed Michael Thomas and Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk and Alvin Kamara to big money extensions. And the only one of those guys that panned out was the friggin' running back.
I know.
Right? And And Mike Thomas got hurt. He had one amazing year after he signed the extension, hurt the rest of it. Marshawn Lattimore was hurt the entire time, traded $30 million dead cap hit this year. Ryan Ramczyk injured like 2 years into it.
I guess you couldn't foresee that.
So like all those guys who should have been core foundation, wide receiver one, like all pro right tackle, lockdown corner, star running back. That's like foundational. If those guys all would have played out a normal contract, they would have been A-okay in this situation, right? Instead, all those guys didn't pan out. They're all costing huge amounts against the cap, and then like you have to backfill to make sure you have a competitive roster, and that to me is where everything went sideways.
But even so, though, and by the way, Reed Wilson, I want you to stick around in the chat because I have an answer for you to your moronic comment in just a few minutes. So stick around for that after Luke's going. I don't want him to have to stick around for that. But you talk about that last thing, Luke. All those things you said, I understand it. That was the way you thought you were trying to win for this year. I get it. And at the time, they made sense. But how could you not see? You're talking about all those things, not all of them, but a majority of those things needing to pan out for you to be in a position to be where you were 15 years ago, okay, with Dennis Allen a coach, okay? So all those things needed to pan out. My question, I guess, how could you not foresee that what kind of boat you're going to put yourself in for later? And I get there's no more kick in the can franchise than the Saints. I understand that, but just to see this is where we're going to be 2, 3, 4 years from now. We're going to be in living cap hell. I mean, even if it worked out, I mean, it's like the Cubs back in 2016. They sold their soul to the devil to win the World Series and then stunk because they didn't want to spend all that money. What's even worse in the NFL, because you can't go over the cap. There is no luxury tax. You had to see that you're going to put yourself in position to where now I don't even know how you fix it.
Yeah, I mean, like you gotta probably just have like I was saying, just like you have to have a reset. You have to have a year where you're paying a bunch of guys to not play for your football team, and it's gonna suck and it's gonna be difficult. But like you can get out of it. I mean, teams have done it over and over.
And they've done it. The Saints have done it. I mean,
the Buccaneers 2 years ago led the NFL in cap money. They had $81 million in dead cap money. Saints will probably have more than that this year if they get rid of Derek Carr. $81 million in dead cap money, $35 million going to their quarterback, Tom Brady. And this is for salary cap that's probably $40 million less than this year's cap.
Although they did win the Super Bowl, so they sold their soul to the devil and got lucky in the end, but they still won the Super Bowl.
No, they still won the Super Bowl, but like they got out of it pretty quick. Right. They made some tough decisions. They moved on from some guys that got out of it pretty quick. They lucked out signing Baker Mayfield. That worked out really well. They've won the division twice since then. We saw the Denver Broncos just last year. They traded a bunch of good players. They traded Bradley Chubb. They traded Jerry Jeudy. They cut Russell Wilson. They had a $53 million dead cap hit in Russell Wilson. Their cap was terrible. They bring this roster in that everybody in the NFL is saying it was one of the worst rosters in football. Everybody's mocking it for drafting Bo Nix at 12th overall.
I said it.
And then they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's totally possible to, like, it looks bleak right now. It looks impossible right now. It is possible to get out of this, especially if Kellen Moore is the guy. But like, you also have to look at this honestly. And if you're the Saints, you have to be like, why did nobody want to come coach our team this year?
Yeah.
It's because they can't release their $35 million guy who can only carry the ball 8 times a game. Otherwise, he's going to get hurt. Because if they release him, it's going to be next to no cap savings. You're going to count $18 million against their salary cap. They're going to have to pay an additional $4 million on their cap if they release Cam Jordan this year. Uh-huh. It's stuff like that. It's just like that's what, like, they have to be honest with this and be like, no more. They do have to do no more. I completely agree. And I guess the way is, if you do bite the bullet and you eat some of these sours and you do make cuts this year, you are sending a signal that we are going no more. I mean, just no more. We can't do it. So that is one thing. All that being said, they are going to have to do some more. there's $60 million over the cap, and there's very, very few guys who they can just straight up release and not put themselves even further into the red.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in a grand scheme of things, they're not going to have a choice but to restructure a lot of these contracts unless you, like you said, unless we just want to move on, like we're going to cut them and eat the salary. And that's why I don't think they're going to do it with Carr. But I mean, and look, I want to have maybe I can get with you. Who's the salary cap expert among our team? Whoever it is, we could spend a whole show just on, and I may find one nationally, but I just think that it's worth the show on just talking about the salary cap, because I thought I at least kind of got the gist. And then you said some things today that I didn't get the gist. Like, I didn't understand that Taysom Hill, I mean, you save nothing by cutting him. I didn't understand that, as a matter of fact. So it's just so weird how it works.
And look, they've done this in the past where they've gotten veteran guys to take pay cuts. They did it just last year. They got DeMario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu to take pay cuts. But like they're gonna have to figure some weird stuff out this year, because like the way things work right now with the way they've restructured these guys multiple times, it's just that those prorated bonuses and the void years are going to all come due at once if they release them. So it's just like, it's not really a feasible thing.
Yep. Well, it should be an interesting offseason for sure. I mean, I know we say that a lot of times, but I don't think there's any question that this is going to be, maybe not in a good way, this is going to be one of the most interesting off seasons to see how this team deals with it, because they are in a spot to where, like you said, I mean, there's like maybe 20 little fixes but those 20 little fixes end up carrying themselves over kind of where we are now. So we'll see how it goes. We will talk to you in the before the draft, I hope. But you got it's hard to take a vacation with this team and the way that the NFL works, but you got any vacation planned?
No.
Not that your life at home is any easier, because that's crazy too.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at the combine next week, and then sounds like a little reporting trip for work after that. We'll keep that under wraps for now. But
it's good to be young, Luke Johnson. It's good to be young. Stay young, my friend.
40 next year, man. I'm not.
God, I remember 40. I wish I was 40. All right. Well, we will see you at the Rainy League draft as well too. I can't wait to see what happens there. Thank you for joining the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Second to last again. It's gonna be great.
Well, maybe you'll be third to last this year. We'll see what happens. See you later. Luke Johnson, everybody. Look, love having our Saints guys on. And look, they're so busy. And the reason why I don't have them on as much, I would love to have them on all the time. And people ask me, why don't you have those guys? They're so busy, dude. And they have their own show now, so it's a lot. And by the way, if you haven't checked them out, Saints Insider podcast, you need to check that out as well. All their stuff at NOLA.com/Saints. You need to check it out. But they're so busy. I feel guilty when I ask them, because I know they got so much going on. So had Dunk on last week, had Luke on today. Maybe we'll try to have Matthew Paris on it sometime soon. Rod Walker, he hasn't been on in a while. Need to get him on as well. So we'll do that. But we have other guys coming on as well through the course of the next 3 shows, our last 3 shows, before I take a little bit of minute of a break. Okay, you're right, Reed Wilson. I didn't mean to call you a name. The name calling, it is who I am sometimes. It just comes out. It means love. I say those things because I love the Dattitude family. But this comment, either you've never paid attention to me and why I think the way I think, or I don't know what to say. I've explained this multiple times, but I'll explain it again. And for those of you listening to the podcast, the comment reads this way. He said he's seen enough in 6 games of Spencer Rattler. Like, dude, how would you know with him playing with a blindfold on and one hand tied behind his back? He had a musical chairs at wide receiver, O-line, and tight end. It's pretty simple. If you watch football long enough and you kind of understand the game, okay? Again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm telling you the way that I see it. If you've watched this game long enough, you don't need to see more than 3 or 4 games of a quarterback, in my opinion. There are definitely exceptions. There's no question there are exceptions. Sam Darnold's one of them. And will he be serviceable in the long run and be a good quarterback for some team going forward? I doubt it, but maybe. He definitely played better this year than I ever thought he could possibly play, but it took him 7 years. Okay. First of all, the Saints don't have 7 years. They just don't. Sam Darnold got plenty of time to become a real quarterback, and it took him 7 years. Spencer Rattler, what I saw in 6.5 games of football from Spencer Rattler was this. The only times I thought he was good was when he just played loose and wild and carefree. Okay? But even then, he consistently went again and again and again, went to his first read. And that's why if you go back and watch that Tampa Bay game, okay? And the Tampa Bay game, which was the last game of the year, is significant because it's the same as most of the other games that he played, except Clint Kubiak tried to dumb down the playbook. I don't mean it to be mean. I'm being it to be factual, okay? Spencer Rattler was throwing to his hot read. His hot read, they changed it as much as they could, but he either threw to his first read, and when Tampa Bay made adjustments at halftime, what happened in the second half? He folded, he lilted or wilted like a flower that has been out exposed to the sun too long. And that's what he's done every single game he played. He's had, except for the Green Bay game, it was just absolutely awful. When has he strung 2 good quarters together? I don't care that it's only been 6 games or 7 games, whatever it is. I know this, 0-6. I don't care who's playing for you. I've watched him long enough to know that he either throws to his first read, he takes a sack, or he gives it to the other team. Those are the 3 things that he's done 90 to 95% of the time. I don't need to see any more of a quarterback to know that that's what he does. And I don't think, my opinion is, okay, and what's my record here in the show? Go back. And things that I've talked about and predictions that I've made, a lot of them have come true. Some of them haven't. Some of them have. But I got a pretty good batting average. Lewis Mathern says, cutting players like Carr and Hill is about saving money this year, except it doesn't. It doesn't save money this year. It's about being able to reallocate future millions elsewhere instead of getting stuck paying it to those aging players. It doesn't save them any money. You heard Luke Johnson just talk about that. It doesn't save any money for this year. I didn't even know that about Taysom. I feel completely different about Taysom Hill right now than I felt when we started this show. When I started the show, I thought they were going to save $10 million if they cut Taysom Hill. Oh, they're not going to save any money? Then keep Taysom Hill. They're not going to cut him. So now I think that rumor is just ridiculous. Kyle says they sold out for Drew and we should have won at least 1 Super Bowl in 18-19. That would have been a good trade-off. Look, they got screwed. Okay? The Saints got screwed. They should have, would have, could have. They did sell out for Drew. They kicked that can, but you can't use that as an excuse anymore to what they're doing now. Kicking the can 7-8 years ago doesn't have anything to do with kicking the can now. At some point, you have to realize we're going to eat it. And to me, that moment was when Sean Payton said, I'm leaving. Okay? I understand you want to give Dennis Allen a chance to win. In hindsight's 2020, and Dennis Allen sucked, and he was the worst thing that could happen to this franchise, and he's part of the reason why we're in this spot right now. But hindsight's 2020. I'm not going to blame it all on Dennis Allen anymore. They had to realize then. They had to stop kicking cans and stop thinking they could win a Super Bowl with Dennis Allen as their coach. It's okay to kick 1 or 2 or 3 cans, but you can't kick 10 of them. You can't kick 15 of them over and over again and think it's going to work. And the Saints did that. Walt Crawford, the Saints had to draft better to get out of cap hell. Absolutely they do. Rainy Cajun, the Rams sold their soul. I'm assuming you mean the Rams sold their souls many years back. It happens all the time. I don't know. I don't think that's really true. Did they? I mean, they got out of it in a hurry. The Rams were pretty damn good last year. If Matthew Stafford comes back, which all indications are that he is, they'll be good again. They lost Aaron Donald. They were just fine. Got plenty more comments. Gabe Henderson's back. He's going to come on in just a minute. We told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary evaluation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world, and they will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. And Nick gives his rubber stamp thumbs up to Kellen Moore. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't none of these comments. It ain't me. It ain't the quarterback situation in the New Orleans Saints. It ain't the draft. What's the most important thing? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Lewis Mathern, you fix it by biting the bullet this offseason. Understanding you're going to be bad, and yes, you will have to cover terrible teams. It's not just biting the bullet this year, though. That's my point. If you're not going to get out of this hell, then what the hell are you doing? You might as well try to win. Kyle's right. Kyle Sherman. Without the Minneapolis miracle and the no call against the Rams, we likely have one or two more Super Bowls. I am convinced. I am absolutely, unquestionably, without a doubt convinced. I think they would have won had the Minneapolis miracle not happened. I think they would have won the Super Bowl that year. The one with I think that was the Philly win with Nick Foles and the Philly special. I think that was that year. But there's no doubt in my mind that they win the Super Bowl had the no call not happen. Still pissed off. Still, my wife has a shirt that says still salty. Salty's not good enough. Still pissed about that. Hemisphere. Bottom line, the credit card debt is due. It's time to pay the bill. No question. They got to start paying the bill. But there's got to be ways to do it without kicking 15 cans. Again, you put yourself in a mess to where you cut people and it ain't going to help you this year. I'm not saying you restructure all these. You literally have to restructure a couple of these contracts because you have no choice. There's going to be no other way to get under the cap. No other way. There's just no other way. My friend Todd Walters, have a good one. I know, I'm sorry I didn't get to your comments before. I didn't know if you're still here, but I appreciate you joining us. Dwayne Hanson, hopefully with a healthy old lawn and healthy receivers, that Spencer Rattler gets another shot. Telling you, man. Come back and show me this if I'm wrong, okay? Again, I'm not being mean. I'm telling you the way that I think that it is. Cut this clip out or quote me and say, you said on February 17th, ... If Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, which I think there's little chance of that, but if Spencer Rattler is the quarterback, and I sat here, I'll show you the picture. I would, if he came on the show, I'd have to say it. I'm not going to not say it. Quote me. If Spencer Rattler is the quarterback of this team, the starting quarterback on this team, I don't care what happens after, because he won't be the starting quarterback all year. There's no way he makes it through a whole year with Kellen Moore like wanting to see this. So whatever. But if Kellen Moore is the starting, if Kellen Moore, we'd be better off with Kellen Moore as the starting quarterback. Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback of this team in week 1 of the 2025 season. This team will not win more than 5 games next year. And my prediction will be 3-14. Just saying. I don't care who the O-line is. I don't care who your receivers are. Doesn't matter. You can't have a quarterback that throws to his first read over and over and over again. Again, I said it last week, 2 weeks ago. I've said it multiple times. Spencer Rattler did some things at times in games where I was like, wow, what an arm. That was a great throw. Too few and far between. I don't care if it's 6 games, 6.5 games. Doesn't matter. Mally Mile says Sean Payton is part of the blame for the salary cap. No question about it. There's no question that Sean Payton is part of this problem. But after he left, they kept kicking cans. Earl Russo says Spencer is definitely not it. What else we got? Sean, so you expect a rookie quarterback to look good with a bunch of practice squad players. You don't have to look good. Okay? That's what y'all are missing in this. You don't have to look good. I want you to forget about the Saints. Forget about Spencer Rattler. Go look at the Patriots. Look at Drake May. Use him. He's a perfect example. He didn't look good. The Patriots didn't look good. But I can tell you that Drake May is a starting quarterback in this league. I watched enough of him to see what he sees. You can watch a quarterback and say, go back. If If you have a way to go back and watch Saints games, I want you to go back and take one and look, just one of them. Look at it objectively. Don't look at it as your Spencer Rattler guy. And I get it. If you're a Spencer Rattler guy, great. My son loves Spencer Rattler more than anyone I've ever talked to. We can't even talk about it anymore because he doesn't like my opinion. Go back and watch a full game over again. I want you to do this, and I want you to do it as best you can. I know it's hard to do, but go back and watch it with an open mind because I've looked at Saints games multiple times. It's what I do. Every game I watch more than once, and I try to see if I'm missing something, and I'm not missing anything. You don't need you can laugh all you 3 or 4 games, ha ha ha. If you've watched football long enough, you don't need more than 3 or 4 games. When was the dude good in college? He wasn't. He left Oklahoma because he wasn't good there. He went to South Carolina and they were mediocre. And they had a first-round receiver. He wasn't good at South Carolina. He wasn't good in college. The Saints, I haven't used this line in a while, so I'll use it again. He didn't get drafted to the 5th round. The Saints are not smarter than a 5th grader. As much as you diss on the Saints and the Saints administration, you can't say the Saints administration knows what they don't know what they're doing. They're terrible. But yet they were smart enough to take Spencer Rattler in the 5th round, and that was brilliant. Oh, that's their one brilliant move. They got one right. No, they didn't. They didn't get that right either. They're not smarter than 31 other teams. To wait to the 5th round, there's a reason why he lasted that long. Because he's not good. The other 31 teams saw in college what we all see now and what we've seen in 6.5 games. He can do great things, but that doesn't mean he has the potential to be a great quarterback. Again, you're going by record alone. He was a rookie. Troy Aikman went 1-15 his rookie year. It's a difference. Record doesn't tell the story. It does if you last long enough, it tells the story. Gabe's going to have some thoughts on it too. In just a minute, I got to show a few more of these because, again, Mono-y Monday. I didn't get a lot of time for a Mono-y Monday. Randall. Jim finally coming to the lane blaming the right person, Mickey Loomis. Not necessarily just blaming Mickey Loomis, but he's certainly a part of the problem. I've never once not said that Mickey Loomis wasn't part of the problem. There's a lot of people that are part of this problem. Sean Payton is definitely part of this problem. There's no question about it. Derek Branch. I don't think this fan base is patient enough for a rebuild. Man, I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. I don't know if I'm patient enough. Man, I wouldn't have a choice. I'd have to be. But, man. Hakeem, big dog, what's going on? Sorry I didn't show some of your comments earlier. I'm trying to show one now. Won't let me. Hello. There we go. What else we got here before I bring Gabe on? Let's see. I had to go up for that one. Sorry. Earl Russo, even when Spencer had time, it was horrible. Molly Miles says if Mickey was a GM for any other team, he would have already been fired. Maybe. Again, I think y'all blaming Mickey too much, but look, like I said, he definitely deserves a huge chunk of the blame, but he also deserves a huge chunk of what? The credit. Randall. Spencer Rattler was a late round pick. I just said that. He was a late round pick. There's a late round pick for a reason. Saints fan says his first read he goes to because there's no other players available for a second or third read. Okay, Saints fan, do this. Go back and let's just find pieces of a game. You don't even have to find a way to watch a whole game. That's not why he goes to his first read. He doesn't even look at anyone else. You think I'm just throwing this out there? Like he goes to his first read? Or he's like looking around, no, I'm going to go back to my first read. No, he locks on a receiver. He doesn't go anywhere else. Jay Tucker Rafferty. The one thing everyone is missing is a new coach always wants his guy under center, and that's someone he has drafted or a free agent he is connected to. That is very true. That's why I think Derek Carr is a bridge. I would rather see a bridge. And I would rather see 8-9, 9-8 in a bridge. What else we got here? Again, I know I missed a lot of comments here as we going along. Where is it? Rainy Cajun. There it is. People have made their money and complacency has set in. Talking about management. Could be. Just the way things work in NOLA. Maybe so, but Mickey Lomas is 68. I don't know. 68. Even if complacency set in, if that were the case, I just think that he might have wanted to move on by now. Hakeem, come on, man. I love you. Thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. You are certainly in the top 10 probably of Dattitude family members because you're here every show or almost every show. But you're saying Joe Milton has as much talent as Drake May? Come on, man. I'm not saying Joe Milton doesn't have talent, and I definitely didn't see enough of Joe Milton to know if he could be a quarterback later on. He only played in, 1.5 games total combined, if that much. But Joe Milton is not as good as Drake May. Come on, man. All right, Reed. I'm going to show one more, and we got to get – I want to get to Gabe because we got about 15 minutes left in the show. Like you said, maybe Rattler's not the answer, but at least put him in a better position. And like Luke said, if it doesn't work, you would get a top pick. I'm just not sure a top pick is what does it guarantee? I'm always a win now guy. Y'all know this. I'm always a win now guy. And I'm okay even with taking chances on stuff. But I can't bring myself to want to see a 3-14 team. Oh, this one's good. Lewis Mathern. Do you want to see 8-9 with a Carr bridge because you feel it's best for the Saints' future, or simply because you in capital letters, don't want to cover a terrible team? Both. I mean, everyone in this chat with their opinion, it's about what they want to see, right? That might be the dumbest comment of the day, and we've had some. I mean, you want to see something, whatever you want to see, it's because you want to see it. I mean, what I want to see is because it's what I think is best for this team. And it's because I don't want to cover a terrible team. Both. They both can be true at the same time. And here, people could say whatever they want. They don't bring receipts because when I'm right and they're wrong, they don't come back. But when I'm wrong, they come back with the laughing emojis. Fly, chickadee, fly. All right, we're gonna definitely have more comments before the show's over. But he's been waiting patiently. He's back from vacation. Gabe Henderson, tell me that I'm wrong and all the commenters are right. They're firing me up again this morning. I don't hear you. He's gonna work on his
StreamYard.
There you go.
There we go. StreamYard muted me automatically because I was fixing the mic. What's up, Randall? I have a question for some of these commenters specifically. Reed Wilson is one of them.
Okay.
Sean H is another, and I think Saints fan. All those guys who are talking about all of these quarterbacks like Brock Purdy and Troy Aikman, all those guys that were really good. Let me ask a question to you three specifically. What did you see from Spencer Rattler that makes you think that he's the quarterback of the future? I don't want to hear, well, he was put in a position to not succeed. He didn't have receivers. No,
I never asked that question. That's a great question.
He didn't have receivers. He didn't have an offensive line. What's up, Adam? But that's all I'm hearing from these people is excuses. And yes, it is reality. But at the end of the day, it's an excuse. Because they didn't see anything good from him.
That's true. They never tell you what they saw that makes them think.
That's all I want to know. All I want to know is tell me one good thing you saw from him.
We'll show it.
Because as someone who isn't a Saints fan, who I honestly couldn't care less who the Saints quarterback is.
Right.
I wish the team well because I'm on this show. I have no ill will toward the Saints. But I consider myself a neutral observer. And I watched Spencer Rattler multiple times. I did not see anything that
By the way,
convinced me that he was a quarterback of the future.
By the way, Rainy Cajun says, didn't I say my ratings are better when the Saints do worse? Absolutely.
Yes.
There are way more people watch the show when they suck than when they're good. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, I should want them to suck, but I'd rather the ratings be down a little bit because I hate banging my head against the wall over and over again.
So I will say this, and this is, Randall and I agree on this, and this is, I hope that what Luke said today, because he gave some awesome insight, I hope what he said really put this thing into perspective. When I say that the Saints just need to accept their fate, that's what they need to do.
Well, I mean, can you do anything else but accept your? I mean, what else can you do?
Well, I mean, no, because there's been people commenting for the last few months who say, "Oh, we should sign so and so, and we could compete, and we can sign so and so." And when I've said what money, I really hope people now understand there is no money. These Saints do not have money to sign some of these premier free agents that some of these people want. You're not going to get Justin Fields.
I think what I'm going to do for Wednesday, and please remind me tomorrow if you can.
Yeah.
I want to go back in time because I don't know the answer to this. I want to look back in time and see teams that won only 4 games in a season. How long did it take them to make the playoffs after that? And over the course of time, maybe pick the last, 15 or 20 teams that have done it. Because people keep saying if you go through this losing and it helps you in the long run, my opinion is I think way more it's infrequent, I think. You could take a team like the Texans and who had the second pick of the draft a couple years ago, and I think they just got lucky. But I think overall, generally, when you talk about bad teams, it takes bad teams a really long time to get better again if they go that route of, all right, when's the last time a team had back-to-back 5-win seasons or less, and then they were good again? I know the Jaguars had one. Besides that, but I know the Jaguars had one good season. They were bad. Got Trevor Lawrence. They were still bad, and then they had one good season, and they went back to being bad again. So, but we need to put together a chart and see how, because I don't think, I've said this before, I think losing does nothing but make you a loser. That's why when people say, I don't want to be 7 and 10, I don't want to be 8 and 9, why I think 8 and 9 or 7 and 10 is better, because the draft picks that you're talking about, the only draft round where it really, really matters, in my opinion, to get a good draft is the first, obviously.
First and second.
Second, kind of, okay? But after that, it doesn't really make a difference. So what are you talking about by getting all these great draft picks? How long do you want to lose? Okay? So for being a loser, all it does is going to make you a loser for a longer period of time. I just think the Saints and any other team would be better served to win and be semi-mediocre now. Mediocre sucks. Mediocrity sucks. Where you're mediocre now, and that starts the bridge to winning in the long term, in my opinion.
The thing about an accelerated rebuild, the reason the Texans were able to do it so quickly is because what the Texans did once they moved on from Bill O'Brien and once they accepted their fate with Deshaun Watson, they realized we have to stink for a few years in order to completely rebuild this roster. And what they did is they eventually put themselves in a position to where they had a bunch of cap space and a premier pick for a quarterback. And I think that is the best route for the Saints. Is it a guaranteed success? No. Luck is involved with every single draft pick you make. There are so many moving parts involved in not only building a team, but drafting a young kid out of college.
I got one for you. Go ahead. Finish your statement because I got one to show.
So that's why I've always maintained that I think the Saints just need to, and you know what? Maybe it is moving on from Derek Carr, even though it doesn't save you a bunch. But what you have to do, I think you've really got to look at this roster and move on from these veterans. It doesn't save you anything now, but it saves you from restructuring their deals. And you just can't have those contracts on your books for the foreseeable future.
Randall says Detroit rebuilt through the draft, and now they're a contender every year. Really? What did they do this year? Oh, they lost in the divisional round. 15-2 didn't do them very well. And by the way, just 4 years ago, they were 13-1, and then they were 9-8. Rebuilt through the draft. They've been rebuilding through the draft every year since I've been alive. Detroit hasn't done jack squat since I've been alive. That's a terrible example. I mean,
no. He said contender, but
by the way, who's their quarterback? How did they get him?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is they've also added guys like Jared Goff, who definitely helped.
I just look.
So it's a mix, but two things you have to have a successful rebuild are cap space and a premier pick for a quarterback. The Saints have no quarterback of the future on the roster. I think no matter where you stand, whether you're a commenter backing Rattler, whether you're on Jim's side standing up for Derek Carr, one thing I think we can all agree on is that the quarterback of the future is not on the Saints roster. We've been saying it for months. And this quarterback class is horrible. The number 9 pick is not going to a quarterback, I don't think.
I don't think either.
So you don't have the cap space. You don't have the premier pick or quarterback. For lack of a better term, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and tank.
And Lewis, I'm sorry, but you lost out. Dumbest comment of the day. You've been beaten. This is my favorite. Detroit proved that the Saints were too stupid. He put stupid in there, and then he does T.O. stupid. So Detroit proved the Saints were too stupid to keep good coaches and players, but then you use the wrong two. So who's too stupid? I'm not.
Can I say something on that comment?
Stupid. But yeah, you're welcome to.
You can never fault the team for wanting to contend and wanting to stay good. As someone pointed out earlier, the Saints were, some fluke plays and a no call away from the Super Bowl.
Maybe too.
So keeping these players didn't really hurt them. Yeah, it didn't pan out. Only 2 teams make the Super Bowl every year. That's why I look at some of these people who speak in just definitive terms when they say, "Oh, the season was a failure because this team didn't win a Super Bowl." Well, it's not, because only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. It is so damn hard to win a major championship in sports. And so I'm never going to fault the team for wanting to contend. Where I will fault the team, the Saints didn't go about it the right way. Because they didn't really... I mean, as someone put it earlier, and I thought this was great, it's time to pay the credit card bill. It is time to pay the credit card bill, but you know what though? You still have to. Debt is going to be collected.
You don't have the money, just like most people pay their credit card bill. They don't have the money to pay the entire credit card bill. They have to pay it in installments, and the Saints have to pay it in installments. So
they do.
So you don't get rid of players that it doesn't make sense to get rid of them because it's not helping you to get rid of. Again, Taysom Hill is a perfect example. Doesn't help you to get rid of them. I didn't realize that before the show. I didn't understand the cap. I'm saying it out here. So getting rid of Carr doesn't do you any good either. So if you're going to have to, if you had the choice of eating $50 million of dead cap money in this 1 year, or you can restructure and make it easier to swallow, meanwhile still be competitive for the next couple of years while you find your next quarterback, to me, it just makes way more sense to keep your quarterback now and just try to make it work over the next course of the next couple of years instead of just eating $50 million in cap money.
Yeah, I mean, the only argument against that is, Luke said it, and I think he put it perfectly. If you win too much, which if you're Derek Carr, let's call it for what it is.
Too much.
No. So let's.
I get it.
No. Hear me out, because I don't think you know what I'm going to say. For Derek Carr, we've said it a few times, and you believe this. He's got a few more years left in him, right?
Yeah.
I think at this point, Derek Carr knows his future is not with the Saints.
Yeah, for sure.
So what next year is going to be is an audition, essentially, for Derek Carr for other teams, if he's still on the Saints.
By the way, Lewis, no, it's exactly what I'm talking to Gabe about right now. It's not crickets. And if you don't think that I've gone at Gabe when I don't agree with him, then you've never watched this show before. Because I've gone at Gabe as hard as I've gone at anybody ever, probably. Anyway. All right, last thought, because we're gonna wrap this show today. I've had enough of this. Every time I bring up Derek Carr, people just go insane. But we will. You have to talk about it because obviously it's the top. Now that you've hired a coach, and that coach is going to make his decision, and I think that we'll know the answer. Honestly, I think we'll know the answer within the next three to 4 weeks. You're going to know the answer. It may not be, it may not be though. I think you'll find out which way he's leaning. Put it that way in the next couple of weeks.
It's not going to be. Let's not sugarcoat this. The next season and maybe the next few seasons are not going to be pretty.
I don't agree with you. I put it this way. It's not that I don't agree with you.
Okay.
You could be right. Okay. But I also think that everyone either in this stream or just automatically thinks the Saints are going to suck next year. I think they're dead wrong. Could the Saints suck? I'll tell you what I'm going to predict in, I don't know, maybe June. You'll know which way I'm leaning. Maybe even May after the draft, after I see some mini camp. And I was, last year I said I thought they would go 7-10. Obviously, I was 2 games too high. But I thought this team was going to go down, was going to take the wrong direction. Why? Because of the offensive line. But I do think this team has potential. If they get this draft right, I think they have the potential to at least be enjoyable to watch.
The word "if" is doing a lot of heavy
lifting there. Of
course.
Everything's if, though. I can go if with everything.
Well, I think what you said is key. You'll see it in the next few weeks whether the Saints are going to try and tell people that, and let's once again call it for what it is. The only reason the Saints have any chance to win some football games next year is because they play in the worst division in football,
and they're gonna have an easy schedule again.
Exactly. If they were in a real division, and
Saints had a weakest schedule the last 2 years in the NFL. Yeah, they're gonna have the one of the weakest schedules again next year.
Yeah, they will.
So,
final thought. That's the only reason that they're really there's really talk of. But I think in the long run, we're going to see over the next few weeks whether or not they're going to try and win again, or they're going to truly, realize what I've been saying for the last couple of years. It's time to tear it down.
Texans didn't have to tear it down.
Yes, they did.
They didn't tear it down. They got a new quarterback.
Jim. No.
New quarterback, new coach.
We started Davis Mills for 2 years.
You like Davis Mills?
I like Davis Mills as a backup.
Okay.
I was part of the Mills Mafia when he was starting. It's the Texans.
Is there really such a thing?
Yeah, it's jokingly called the Mills Mafia.
Wow, I never heard that one.
It's awesome. The Texans franchise history is miserable, so we're kind of used to it. But no, the Texans over a 2-year span.
Their moments.
Over a 2-year span, the Texans were horrendous. They did have to tear it down. They really did. They moved on.
But you're talking about 2-year span. They went from being like, okay, they were good. They weren't just like average.
They were good with Deshaun Watson.
They were good.
Yes.
And then they went.
And then they fired Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
And then they realized. And then Deshaun Watson wasn't coming back, and then they tore it all down. I mean, they traded Brandon Cooks. They traded Justin Reed.
Saints traded Brandon Cooks.
Well, yeah, so did the Texans.
So did like 5 other teams. Didn't he play for like 7
he was good for the Texans. He was a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. We got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's a tough one.
That was Bill O'Brien. We're not going to. But the Texans did tear it down. They really did. And they got all of the big contracts off the books. I mean, hell, we signed Philip Lindsay on a 1-year prove-it deal. We were, seriously, the first few years, we were signing guys to 1-year prove-it deals. And that's just to make the cap work.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the Texans hired, bring this comment up. The Texans hired 2 lame duck coaches in a tank year. Hired 2.
Yeah. At least they were smart enough to get away from them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything that they've done.
Name? David Culley?
David Culley and Lovie Smith. Yeah. David Culley is probably the most undeserving head coach in NFL history.
That's pretty bad.
Nice guy. Terrible coach.
All right, we'll talk more Wednesday. We're going to talk more Wednesday. I'm doing better on keeping the show closer to an hour and a half, so we're going to try to keep that going. I got a couple more comments to respond to, and then we'll close it up. But we'll talk again Wednesday. Glad to have you back.
Good. Yeah, good to be back.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody. All right, a couple more comments before we go. Saints fan, agree to of course. Love your show listings every time you have a chance from Georgia. Look, for the new people, they don't understand who I am. Okay. I have to explain this every now and then because people don't get it. Okay. Okay, whether you agree with me or don't agree with me. You notice I'm showing your comments. And then a lot of times I show when you come back at me and you call me whatever you want to call me again. It's like you're sitting on my couch. That's what the show is about. The show is like, it's like we're sitting on the couch. We're having a chat about football, like, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot, whatever. You can't get 5 guys together. In this case today, at one point, I mean, we had thousands of people watch the show today. Okay. We had well over 10,000 people watch last Wednesday's show. We've been averaging right at 10,000 a show so far this year. So in the course of a show, when you got 10,000 people watching the show, even though it's only 60 or 70 of them are commenting or whatever, however many it is, we're not going to agree. I don't expect you to agree. I'm going to show you a comment, but it's like sitting on the couch. You can sit here and I go back and forth with you if you want. But I've pretty much been right about this team for quite a few years now. And I think that for the first time in a while, I've been called Derry Downer forever, but nobody's calling me that right now, because I'm thinking this team could be actually better than most of you think they could be. And now you want them to suck. Before, oh no, we want to win. We want to do this. We want to blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Going back to that question from before of, do I want to see them be 8-9 or 9-8 because that's what I want, or whether it's because what I think it's better for this franchise? Both. Randall, number one guy I disagree with. Thanks for the show. He knows what I'm talking about. Saints fan, family, Dattitude family forever. Lewis III says Gabe's a straight shooter. It's only because you agree with him. He's a straight shooter. He is a straight shooter, though. We're both straight shooters. That's why we work well together. He wouldn't be here if he wasn't a straight shooter. I'm a straight shooter too, just because you don't agree with me. That's the whole theme of the show. I tell it the way that it is, or at least the way that I think it is. If you don't agree with it, you don't have to. Where is it? There it is. My name in the marquee. It took me 34 years to get one. We'll do it again Wednesday. I have no idea. Randy Caden say I'm his man, even if I went to show. My West Bank yet. Yeah, sometimes y'all are able to really draw out my West Bank yet. Y'all are really good at it sometimes. See? Here's a perfect example. We don't agree, but I'll show his comment anyway. Nat says Spencer all day, all day. He's still, Gabe, no one has said yet why Spencer is and maybe that'll be the objective for Wednesday. I want y'all to come back Wednesday live at 11 a.m. Central Time. I don't know. We're going to have a guest, but I don't know who it is. It'll be similar to today where first 20 minutes, just me and you. Then we'll have a guest. Gabe's going to come on, and we'll have time for comments and questions. But when you come back on Wednesday, I want you to come back with this. And I want you to go back and watch. And I'm not talking about 3 plays that you found that were great or highlight reels or whatever. I want you to go back and watch the full. It doesn't have to be the Tampa Bay game, but I think that's the one that I think is the best to look at because it's kind of shows you everything you need to know, in my opinion, of Spencer Rattler. Oh, you've only seen how many games do you need to see? Okay. We'll be here next year, and I guarantee you, if the Saints went 3-14 next year and Spencer Rattler played in all 17 games, you'd still have some numbnuts coming back saying, we've only seen him play 23 games. That's not enough. Not as many, but you'd still have people that were doing that. So my assignment for you before Wednesday is this. Go back and watch a full game and watch it with the most open eyes you can possibly look at. You're human, I get it. So you're going to be jaded watching things anyway. But when I tell you, I want you to watch that he looks in one spot and he throws there 90% of the time. That's more important than his 0-6 or 0-7 record or whatever, however way you want to look at it. That's way more important. So when you come back Wednesday, if you still think that he's potentially the Saints' future, I want you to tell me why. I don't want you to just tell me, roll with the rat, cut Carr. That doesn't tell me anything. I want you to come back and I want you to tell me why. And not this. Earl Russo, you're exactly right. They want Spencer because he's not Carr. And they don't want Carr because he's not Drew Brees. And Drew Brees is gone and he's never coming back. when you get that through your head, when you can accept that, you'll be much better off. Mally Mal, 7 or 8 wins will not make us better. It's mediocre. It, by definition, by fact, makes you better. You were 5-12 this year. Here's a math. I'm going to give you some math, and it's my limited Shaw math skills. I'm not very good at math, but I do know this. I do know that 7 or 8 is better than 5. So by fact, it makes you better. You win 7 or 8 or 9 next year, and then you win 8 or 9 or 10 the next year, and then you have a team that hopefully you can be consistently good, because I think that's what Kellen Moore is going to bring. Carr stares down receivers too. What game are you watching? I mean, everybody stares down a receiver at a different points. I'm talking about consistently. I'm talking about almost every play. I'm not talking about once or twice in a game. I'm trying to make people who don't want to see reality see reality. I know how hard that is. It's like banging the head against the wall. Ain't gonna happen. Again, your assignment for Wednesday is to come back and tell me why you want Spencer Rattler to be the scorer. Not because you don't like Carr. Why Spencer Rattler can be a starting quarter. I'm not missing the point. 100% get the point. My point is, I'd much rather win. Winning sets a foundation more than anything else. I don't care who you talk about, who's here, what's here, whatever. Go back in time. Saints were 3-13 in 2005, and they went to the NFC Championship game in 2006, and it set the foundation. They had a rough couple of years again. Well, rough. They won 7 games or 8 games, whatever it was, in 2007 and 2008, and then they won the Super Bowl in 2009. And then they were that team. Can this team do that? It's going to be a lot harder with the cap situation. But losing, it doesn't set a foundation. It sets you a soft marsh footing where you sink in quicksand. You go and do your thing and watch Spencer Rattler and come back and tell me why Spencer Rattler can be a quarterback. Because if he can't, there's no just like you don't want to see Carr because he doesn't do anything for you. Spencer Rattler doesn't do anything for you either. Come back and tell me why he can be a starting quarterback. And I'll come back and show you, because I'm just saying this without looking, but I'm going to go back and make a chart, and we're going to have a chart on Wednesday of teams that have sucked. How long did it take them to be better? Because losing does nothing for you except make you a loser. That is going to wrap it up for us on this Monday, and more importantly, the 9th birthday of one little Lucy Derry. Happy birthday to Lucy Derry. I want to thank today's guest, Luke Johnson, Gabe Henderson, and you, even the ones that we didn't see eye to eye with. We've got some new members of the Dattitude family, although they may not be here long because they don't particularly agree with me or whatever. We hope you come back. We can agree to disagree. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, we kind of had a mono-y Monday. Running close to vacation time. Again, a programming note. Show Wednesday, then no show Friday, and then next week, Monday and Wednesday, and then I go on vacation. We got 3 more shows before I take some vacation time. We got a few more guests to get in. We hope you can join us on Wednesday. It should be fun. A reminder to subscribe to our, if you haven't done so already, most of you have done so already, but if you haven't, subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page so we can have even more fun than we had today. You can also receive notifications. Click the little bell. You'll find out when we go in the air live, which is usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live at 11 a.m. Central Time. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.NOLA.com. Our Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/Saints. We will see you all. I expect you all to be back and well prepared for the test, the Spencer Rattler test on Wednesday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.